All right, hey guys, it's Dr. Al. You're obviously looking at this video because we've gone over this in my office, or maybe you're just checking out the handouts on the app and you want to know what it means. But either way, this is just going to be a real quick video that runs through this again in case you can't remember. Also on the app, there's another handout beneath this one called Clear Requests Explained, where each one is explained in a paragraph in writing, just in case you find that more helpful or quicker for you to use. Okay, step number 1, making eye contact. Basically, this is probably the most important of the 8 steps, because what ends up happening oftentimes is that we spend a lot of time talking to the back, sides, and tops of kids' heads, and remember, missing the important things. When we're thinking about ADHD, there's, shooting from the hip, putting on the brakes, missing the important things. And missing the important things is tough. The kids have to have all the information if they're going to be successful. If we don't make eye contact, what ends up happening is that oftentimes the information doesn't get all the way in there, and then the child thinks he or she's doing what they're supposed to do, and then they're not, and they're in trouble. So if we don't have their eyes, we probably don't have their attention. So a pretty good rule is if you're talking to someone, make sure you're in the same room with them. You don't want to broadcast from one room to the other, anything other than come in here and see me. Number 2 is keep your voice calm. Kids will match our tone. What I mean is that if I use an angry tone to get a kid's attention, he or she is going to match my tone with one of the 2 big A's, either anger or anxiety, and neither are helpful because now I'm spun up and the child's spun up. So what we want to do when we're putting a load on a kid, when we're telling a child to do something, is we want to make sure we just keep our voice nice and flat. As I like to say in the office, I'm not asking you to talk to your kids like you're a deranged kindergarten teacher, where you're going, "Oh, sweetie pie, please do this," because that's distracting too. What I want you to do is just talk nice and flat. Number 3 is be specific and avoid questions. What I'm trying to say there is avoid being passive. Passive isn't polite, it's simply passive. And again, we're back at that problem of missing the important things. If I'm passive when I'm telling a kid to do something, he or she might not necessarily understand what I'm telling them to do, or that it's a clear direction, not just like, hey, you can do it or not do it if you feel like it. So this is one of the hardest steps for parents. Remember, if you're not clear and specific, your kid can choose to misunderstand, or they may truly not understand what you want. I'm a big fan of courtesy, please and thank you. But how you can know if you're being specific is if you're making a statement and avoiding questions. A question would be, "Hey buddy, do you want to go do your homework now?" The problem with that question is that it's not crystal clear you just told them to do something, and secondly, it's mildly dishonest. The kid might be able to say, "Oh, no, no I don't, Dr. Al, but thanks for asking." Number 4, use do it instead of stop it. As my old Uncle Al used to say, kids are like boats. They're not so easy to stop, but they are very easy to turn. And so what we want to do is we want to tell a kid what to do instead of what not to do. We don't want our children having to stop and figure out the opposite of what we said. We just want to tell them to do what we want them to do. Many commands we give kids are things like stop it or knock it off commands, or stop yelling at me. And that just tells the kid what not to do, so he or she has to flip that, do the opposite, and try to do that. And no one, to include adults, are good at that. So instead of saying stop yelling at me, I would say find a polite way to talk to me. Instead of stop hitting your sister, I would say find a nice way to play with your sister. Instead of stop running in the house, I would say walk. Number 5, give only one direction at a time. Only give 2-part commands if you're sure your kid can handle them. Remember, kids with ADHD often get distracted and will drift off in the middle of jobs that have several unrelated parts. If you are giving 2-part commands, make sure A, that your child's real good, 80% of the time successful with a 1-part command, and then make sure you're free to supervise when you first start doing that. Step number 6, encourage a job well done. Reward. Often the best way is simple praise. Remember to make eye contact when you praise. And when we praise, we just want to say, hey man, or hey girl, or hey child, thanks for doing that. The feedback is really important, not because it's politically correct or even in this circumstance for self-esteem. It's important because basically it's information. Parental discipline is information about what you're not supposed to do, and it will always get in there. But parental praise is information about what you are supposed to do, and we need to make sure it gets in there. Number 7, avoid negative trailers when you're praising somebody. Try to avoid saying, hey, good job doing that, and then immediately go, no, why can't you do that all the time? If you just did it all the time, we wouldn't have this problem. Where we praise a kid and then we accidentally vent on them. And we want to avoid that, because instead of feeling rewarded, the kid feels punished. And I use those words real specifically. A reward increases behavior, a punishment decreases it. And number 8, probably the hardest thing for parents to do, is after you tell your kid to do something, I don't want you to say or do anything for 10 seconds. I just want you to look at the child and count in your head 1001, 1002, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, whatever you got to do until you get to 10 seconds. I want you to ignore whatever it is they are saying or doing, as long as it's not unsafe or illegal. And when you get to 10 seconds, you're going to say it the second time. So an example would be, please pick up your backpack. I would wait 10 seconds, counting in my head, ignoring whatever the kid is saying or doing. And at the end of 10 seconds, I would say, pick up your backpack, or you're going to timeout, or whatever it is used for discipline. Let that wait 10 seconds, and then end it. So this has been a real quick rundown of the 8 steps. I did forget on step number 1 of making eye contact to say, start every time you're going to tell the kid to do something, start with look at me. I probably say that 40 or 50 times a day. All right, this has been Dr. Al. Hope this helps. Talk to you later. Bye.